as Communications Director of Nestlé Indonesia, Mr. GuyKella. Good morning and welcome. Please also welcome the Chief Marketing Officer of XL Axiata, Mr. Alfons Eric Bosch Sansa. Good morning and welcome. And President Director of Shiseido Indonesia, Ibu Caroline Fu. Good morning. And of course, as EVP Head of Marketing and Lifestyle Business of OCBC NESP, Pak Amir Wijaya. Here are your panelists, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, good morning and welcome. Have a seat and take it away, panelists.
Thank you. Selamat pagi, teman-teman. I hope everyone is well. Firstly, I'd like to start by thanking my esteemed panelists here. It's not every day that I have the good fortune of having Pak Guy, Pak Alfons, Ibu Caroline, and Pak Amir together, on stage to discuss what's clearly a very, very important topic of customer centricity and experience. It says a lot when you have senior business and marketing leaders like them who really care about this subject and who are willing to share insights about centricity, customer centricity and experience, and what they're doing within their respective organizations. Maybe I'll start by sort of, maybe pulling together some context as to why I'll be discussing this topic. I think that the subject of customer centricity isn't new. Right? I think it was Peter Drucker who said this in 1954, that it is the customer who determines what a business is, what it produces, and whether it will prosper. So the concept of customer centricity isn't new, right? But it was only in the 90s, I guess, when you started to see organizations starting to take a customer-centric approach in terms of how they organize themselves, right? And they began to develop a force in the marketing literature using the term market orientation. So the sudden surge and obsession, actually these days it's not even just about customer centricity, we talk about customer obsession, right? And why, so why the sudden surge around sort of customer centricity since the 90s, followed by the same happening with the subject of experience, and what's the relationship between customer centricity and experience? I think in some ways the two previous panels in some ways actually covered that. The reality is that since I guess the 80s and the 90s, the simple fact of the matter is the consumer had a lot more choice, right? As more brands came about, as more products came about, and quite frankly, as there was little differentiation sometimes between products, as they become more ubiquitous, the reality is that the one single thing that in many ways that actually helps you truly acquire or inspire, acquire, engage, retain, and a customer is the experience that you deliver to them. So in other words, you can't be customer-centric without delivering a great experience across the funnel, right? And I guess a shameless plug-in would be that, it's for that reason that we at Dentsu acquired our largest acquisition to date, Merkle, is actually a customer experience management organization, because we recognized that back already in, about 8 to 10 years ago, that our clients would need to be able to harness the power of data and technology and creativity to be able to acquire, and retain their customers. Which sort of brings me to, I guess, the first question, right? And maybe I'll start by asking, two senior marketers here within the telco space and the financial services space, two sectors which have very naturally demanding customers, right? I can imagine, and maybe if you could share, Pak Alfons, if at XL Axiata, how are you looking at customer centricity and experience, whether it's in terms of your products, whether it's in terms of the experiences that you deliver in store or omni-channel, and in a post-purchase journey as well. So over to you, sir.
Sure. Thank you, Prakash, for the kind words in the introduction. Good morning, everyone. So yeah, customer centricity, very old topic and very important topic. Yeah? To me, customer centricity, more than anything, is a mindset. Yeah, that's to me the spirit of the word's customer centricity. It's the mindset of the organization to prioritize the customer in their decisions, right? Now, how are we implementing that kind of mindset in Excel to drive a competitive advantage, I believe, right? So today, I think we think about customer centricity and customer experience management around 3 blocks. Yeah. Number 1 is we need to understand the customer. We need to understand what makes the customer happy. Yeah. This is super important for us. If we want to implement a mindset in the company where people prioritize the customer, we need to have very clear ways of measuring how happy the customers are in different stages of the journey every time they do a transaction, right? So we gather more than 200,000 inputs from the customers every day for different transactions, depending if it's a new acquisition, it's an engaged customer. Yeah? And those all funnel into KPIs across the company, right? That to me is the basic enabler to be able to be a more customer-centric company, right? The second thing, the second big pillar for us is around personalization, right? I mean, we are already a highly digital company, right? And one of the key benefits of being digital is that you have complete flexibility, right? And here, what we do in Excel, for example, is we no longer have a product portfolio. We have a product portfolio for each of our customers, right? So when you open My Excel, your product portfolio is going to be completely different to a different person opening My Excel, right? And thanks to do that, we are able to increase the NPS very significantly and lifetime value as well, right? We deliver value, we capture value, right? It's you drive people to upsell, right? I think personalization is still the biggest opportunity for any digital business. I mean, it's shocking how many digital native companies are not leveraging personalization half of what they could, right? Like you give promos, know to who you give what promo. I don't need a promo, yeah? So that's a big pillar for us. And the third one would be about experimentation, right? I mean, whenever we consider not only a product, like a new fundamental product or any brand change, today with digital, I mean, you need to be able to build that experimentation engine that works seamlessly, right? So you gather customer feedback, you co-create with the customer, right? You don't take decisions away from them. To me, I mean, the thing about customer centricity is not only about doing the best for the customer, but it's also about inviting the customer to participate in the decisions of the company. Yeah.
Fantastic, thank you. And Pak Amir, Pak Alfons mentions about, I guess, a mindset and the 3 aspects of sort of measurement, personalization, experimentation. How do you look at it at OCBC and ISP?
For us, I think it's very interesting because customer centricity is a very big buzzword, and I don't think it's very easy to actually implement it in a very genuine way, because many people are like, okay, please innovate, please understand the customer, learn about this research, and please come up with something. But like within like in the bank industry, we have so many different products, and sometimes we are fighting resources even within our different product teams. We have mortgages, we have investment, we have saving accounts, we have personal loan. They're like probably like so many different products, and usually it's very product centric in a way. So at the first time, marketing is actually tried to change, like, okay, whenever we do the marketing, let's do it from a value proposition way, from a customer centric. So that's why we are not campaigning like on the saving account itself or the mortgage itself, but we have like a different type of brand brand on a value proposition like private banking, premier banking. We have Nyala, which is more a digital-centric brand. And then we have our corporate banking, our SME banking. And we try to match that in a way that when we allocate resources, when we're fighting resources, that the product team or channel team should not come up with their own silo product-centric things. But everything has to connect with the value proposition, has to connect from the customer-centric. And in that sense, we even right now try to be more extreme. It's not only in marketing, but even when we do the IT prioritization, when we do the budget prioritization, all the product team have to align with the proposition direction. Okay, what are we going to do with our Nyala brand? And what the mortgage team need to do, what the credit card teams need to do, what the IT need to do, what the channel in branches, how we should change the branches, how are we going to change our mobile banking for this Nyala compared to our premier customer, let's say. So in a way, it's not just about mindset, I think, but we are forced to, if you are the product team of this person, I'm not only asking your P&L of the product, but I'm going to ask, what are you going to do to support this proposition, the business of this brand, of this segment, so that we can actually win together in its different customer-centric proposition? So we don't only have our own KPI, but our KPIs become bigger. How that we win that particular different customer segments, and in a way, our brand that we have prepared. So everybody then cannot shouting that, okay, you want to have these resources, you want to have this IT enhancement, you want to have this marketing, but what are the bigger goals? Are you connect, is your plan aligned with our big proposition customer-centric that we want? And I think that's make a big difference, because for a bigger organization, when there are a lot of different products, when there are so a lot of different customer and segments, they are right now bound to one bigger thing to win something, not just your own product, not just your own channels, not just your own branches, but it's really everybody then have to think from a customer point of view in a real sense. It's not just exercise or just a buzzword anymore. It's part of our KPI. And I think that's interesting, because when we do this, we actually can innovate better. Like we have a branches right now, what we call financial fitness gym, because we would like to serve our Nyala customer better. That is really innovative. We changed our mobile banking. That is, we right now even have the life goals. They can do the checkup and everything, because we are not thinking from only digitalization only, from the product point of view, but from the customer point of view. And I think that really make the changes that every head in the organizations, they are thinking it more aligned. So I think sometimes it's not about it's not only about ideas, but I think it's about how to managing people in a psychological way that they are working into the bigger direction. So then hopefully we can achieve the customer-centric in the real sense.
Wonderful. Which is it's a nice segue when you talk about like segments, right? And obviously your various products and services and ensuring that we're authentic about the sort of connections that we are building to those respective segments. Perhaps that's probably a good question then next to ask, Ibu Caroline, it's as the president director of Shiseido, right? You're looking at it across the entire business, and when you think about, I guess, customer centricity, is local, consumer centricity important to Shiseido given that it's a global luxury brand, right? And in a market which is predominantly mass, right? How does Shiseido Cosmetics in Indonesia find the voice of the affluent consumer? Right? And how do you get insights on such very niche consumers?
Thank you so much for the question. So first and foremost, we have multiple brands in Shiseido Group, right, from ultra luxury to the prestige brand. So, and each of them speaks to different set of consumer. And each of the brand DNA is very unique. It comes from our global. That's how we maintain our brand proposition, brand value. What does the brand stands for? But we cannot take this lock, stock, and barrel, even for the ultra-luxury brands, and apply it in Indonesia. we have to maintain a good balance of global DNA and also local relevancy, because else it will not be relevant to them, right? So I think one of the things that we always must put first, right, is consumer centricity. So what does it mean when it comes to global brand? We always ask ourselves, what does consumer want? What is their expectation? Once we know what their expectation is, then we'll be able to give them the value they're looking for. And we of course, do it in a way where it's aligned to our brand core values. So that's the first thing we always look for. What is the value of the consumer is looking for? We also look at the emotion part of it, right? In Indonesia, what touched the heart of the consumer? Do we show that we really care? So I think that's something that we see in Indonesia especially. Relationship is very important. So when a consumer walks to a boutique or departmental store where our brands are, or even Sephora, or even our e-commerce, we need to make the consumer feel that we know them. Personalization, right? It can be personalized. We have their data, and make them feel that it's personalized for them, and we genuinely care about them. I think that is very important when it comes to marketing to the luxury segment, when it comes to making it relevant for the Indonesia consumers. And where do we find this very ultra luxury consumer or luxury consumer? So I think we are in a very dynamic stage of consumer centricity right now. There's big data analytics tools that can help us, to put all this information through system. For example, we have multiple touch points. People can reach us through our stores. They can reach us through our e-commerce platform. They can reach us through events like this, right? This is where we generate leads, data as well. And we can also, they can also reach us through our social media. So there are multiple touch points of data available. And today we have the flexibility of tools to help us to, incorporate all this data into the tool and disseminate this data out, for our marketing campaign, like digital prompt. We can use it as digital prompters, and also use this as information for our beauty consultant in the store in terms of how we can make it more personalized and relevant to the consumer. So these two must come together, system and people. People here are put as culture. The tool is just a tool, but it's the people who makes it, happen. So, and it's not one or the other, it must come together, it marries. When you have a world-class system or any system, CRM system, that tells you what the customer will want to purchase next, right, from all the data that you have, we need to ensure that that information, that culture mindset of consumer centricity, that information is flowed down to our BC at the point of sale. So when Ibu, maybe for example, Pak Amir comes and look for a sunscreen, we know Pak Amir likes this sunscreen. Pak Amir has, this dry skin. We know what to propose to Pak Amir, and to make it emotional as well. In our till today, we are even able to put in information about Pak Amir, whether he's single, with kids or not, to make it a personalized relationship. So for luxury marketing, it's important that when the customer comes in, with the intention, I want to look beautiful, when they leave, they feel happier. So this is when we feel that, hey, we have achieved consumer experience that when a consumer comes to our store, that's what we want them to feel.
Brilliant. It's a real sort of deep, arguably the sort of deepest level of personalization that's required when you're looking at the luxury segment. Shifting gears a little bit into sort of Nestlé, massive organization, multiple business units as well, in the CPG space. And, I'd like to cite a particular recent report from Campaign Asia plus Milieu Insight, right? Where actually it was just about a month ago where they released a list of Southeast Asia's top 50 brands for consumer experience, right? And in that report, one of the key findings was that the top customer experience brands actually build ecosystems. Brands that have high CX scores also have a track record in building sophisticated brand ecosystems that are both online and offline. When you think about, in the context of Nestlé and ecosystems, would you care to share a little bit about how Nestlé looks at, again, customer sensitivity experience and how you leverage ecosystems to deliver meaningful experiences?
Hello. I think what's interesting is, and you said it across the portfolio that we have, but also, you know, everyone here and everyone in the room, we have such a diverse range, whether you have high data brands, low data brands, high touch, low touch, all very different. So my first point would be around understand for your brand specifically, and this is something that we do within our brand portfolio, is what is your consumer, or we call it a consumer experience framework, right? So, and that's every single touch point that you have. In our case, from packaging, in store, at the point of sale. If the consumer doesn't know what your product is, what's inside the pack, if they're looking for it in the right place or not, that's a part of the experience, right? Obviously, for our case also, we're food and beverage, so you're going to love it when you consume it as well. And then you take two ends of the spectrum. Some categories, very high data, some very high amounts of first-party data. On the other end of the scale, completely opposite. For example, KitKat. No one is thinking first-party data for KitKat, for example, right? It's an impulse. It's very different. But the experience of the brand makes KitKat the brand that it is, right? So apart from just the consumption and tasting delicious. Offline and online, equally important for us from an FMCG perspective, because this is also how you have a total ecosystem of creating memory marks. Many of our brands have been around for decades. For the Indonesians in the room, for example, or many others perhaps also, when you had your first cup of cold Milo at school, it is a memory mark that has stayed with you forever. When you drank a can of Bear Brand during pandemic, or you're continuing to consume Bear Brand after the pandemic, all of these are memory marks, right? And these are brand experiences that you've got to take. So I would separate the data piece from the experience piece as well. Where you can do it, keep it, in that sense, keep it consistent. Keep it differentiated and keep it meaningful. We're in a place as marketers where the number of touch points are unlimited. And it can be very confusing and overwhelming. So from that sense, having your own framework of knowing what touch point is important, what is the role of that touch point, what is the objective of that touch point, will then really help you to filter what's going to make a difference and what's not.
Fabulous. I'm conscious I keep looking at the timer over there. We've got 2 minutes, 23 seconds left. This is a subject that could quite easily take an hour, to be honest. But, you know, one of the points is, and I guess this probably be my final question and I'll ask each of you to answer the same question, is around culture, right? We know that, you know, customer centricity starts right at the very top, right? And in some ways, you've already alluded to that, but how important do you think culture is in driving, company culture is in driving, customer centricity?
Well, if I need to take that, I think it's fundamental. It's the most important thing, right? I mean, customer centricity means ultimately, and I think the panel has made this point very clear, that everyone in the organization is working together towards the customer, right? And that's ultimately culture. Now, the question is, how can you drive that culture in the organization? That's a challenge. It's not always that easy, right? I think Pamir was mentioning product orientation. Sometimes there is even revenue orientation and doing things that are wrong for the customer in the sake of extracting value in the short term, right? So how to drive that culture on the organization? That's what's super important and not so easy to do, right? It's not only about measuring and setting KPIs, it's also about changing many aspects of the organization. And I don't think ultimately we have got the right answer yet in terms of what is the right organization structure to support 100% customer centricity. It depends on the type of business. In our case, we have shifted a lot. I don't think we are yet there. I think what is happening now is we are becoming a more marketing-led organization. Ultimately, marketing is understanding the customer needs and serving the customer, right? That's the point of marketing. So we are more marketing-led. So the entire organization is more oriented towards that. But I think finding the right formula is not yet there, yeah?
Anyone like to take that as well?
No, I just want to say, I think, sometimes we overplay on data. Data itself is nothing. In the majority of cases, we all have the same data. It's what you do with the data. It's the insights that you derive out of the data, and it's the storytelling that you do with the data. Because you're only going to differentiate yourself if you do something with it that your competitor is not doing. Otherwise, everyone's just doing the same thing. And that's a big risk. And that's also where you start to waste money. So being customer-centric, yes, very easy to say. Very easy to get data. Very difficult to do something that's relevant for your brand, that the consumer cares about. We don't often ask, why should they care? Because we often do things because we think it's the right thing to do, not because they actually even care about why we do it. So, yes, another.
Incredible.
Maybe I'll go next, right? So I will not repeat. I totally agree with the two of you. Just to add on that it has to start from day one. I remember when I joined Shiseido, I had my onboarding session. Multiple managers told me about omotonashi. I was like, what? What is omotonashi? So it's really about exceptional hospitality. It's Japanese hospitality. And it starts from day one, and not one, but two, but many managers, even from our regional team, spoke about omotonashi. So it starts from day one. It is in our company DNA. Since 150 years ago, we have put customer as part of our mission as well for the overall company, so that all of us have a shared mission. So that for me, I think is important. And it has to start from us as well, everyone actually. So from the BC all the way to the management. So once a month, actually, my team and I, we do go down to the floor, we go to our counters, we talk to our beauty consultant, because they are the one closest to the consumer. They are the one who interacts with consumer day in, day out. So that's why we feel that going down is very, very impactful, as we get to hear firsthand from the beauty advisors, even the customers that we see in the POS, what are they looking for, what's their expectation, are we meeting their mark? So listen to your consumer, go down to the floor, get close to the frontliners. They are your biggest source of information.
I think I would like to just add additional perspective from all the that we have here. I think what is also important is that there's this study from NUS called psychological safety, that it'll give you 10 times to innovate, that people can take risks, and I think will be more customer-centric as well. I think because the biggest challenge or the biggest sin in organization is that it's a boss-centric initiative, right? Everything innovation is based on your boss. And we are campaigning, adopting this in the organization that is called psychological safety, because we know actually the data is there, the budget is there, the resources is there, but sometimes people are just don't want to take the risk to innovate further because they want to get blamed. They are not safety zone to give you the best. So right now we are very cautious on this. Do we have a team that can innovate? Do we have a team that can tell the best ideas, but they're feeling safe? They are okay to tell, I think the customer wants this. Sorry, but I think your idea can be sharpened like this. Sorry, boss, because I think our customer is like this and we have to do this. And they are brave enough to do that innovation that is very customer-centric, not just based on your boss, because I think that is the biggest challenges that we have right now. How to empower our team to really be more customer-centric. And I think being safe psychologically is very important. Even like when we are talking with our collaborators, our agencies, our partners, are your agency safe enough to give the idea to you? Or are they feeling afraid that they're just going to be rejected or being ashamed that your idea is not that good today? But if they come today with the best ideas and we are willing to fight for their ideas, our team, our channel team, our product team, I think sometimes that is the key to be customer-centric, because there's just so many different jargons, there's just so many data, there's just so many things in deadlines, but at the end, are we brave enough to be customer-centric?
Thank you so much, Amir. I think that's a wonderful way to end this. I think bravery is probably something that is incredibly important. I think a lot of what you've shared, the four of you have shared today, comes down to some some fundamentals, right? A real deep understanding and caring for the customer, knowing that you don't, data is data, but it's what you do with the data. Courage, bravery, experimentation. So I think maybe we can end the session on that note. And I learned, coming from a Japanese company, I just learned another Japanese word as well, myself, omogonashi. Is that right? So, we'll aspire to deliver that to our customers, including yourselves as well. So, thank you very much, Pak Guy, Pak Alfons, Ibu Caroline, and Pak Amir. Thank you so much for making time today and for sharing your insights. Thanks, everyone, for listening.
Thank you very much.